Erika is in full control. I would hope she's in full control, but I don't know because I'm hearing some stories about donors that are pushing things. I'm hearing about the pressure that's even happening with planning this event.
That's the other thing. They said that he took it apart and then put it back together again. Shut up. Do you know how much time it would take to do that if you were highly skilled?
To disassemble a gun.
To disassemble a rifle so that you can get it in a backpack. And by the way, not going to fit.
Not going to fit in a backpack.
And then somehow or another reconnects it once he gets off the roof? What? You're telling me that this kid who's not military trained, this guy, first of all, how did he get to the roof? How come nobody was looking? How come nobody was there's a direct line of sight between where he's sitting and those roofs? You guys didn't check? You don't have a drone? That's insane. So he's on the roof. He shoots. He jumps from the roof. He jumps down 14 feet, jumps off of the roof and lands, whether or not he's even the guy who shot him. Maybe he thought he was going to shoot him. Maybe he's a pats.
Joe Rogan just shook up the whole Charlie Kirk situation, and people are not ready for how big this is getting. Nobody saw this coming at all. For months, Candace Owens has been out here questioning the official story around Charlie Kirk's death, saying things don't line up the way they're being presented. She's been claiming there could be a cover-up at high levels, suggesting the truth might not be fully out there and that certain people could be protected. But for a long time, people brushed her off quick. They called her dramatic, said she was reaching, chasing attention, and not to be taken seriously. Now, everything just flipped. Out of nowhere, Joe Rogan stepped in, and he didn't come in halfway. He didn't soften it or play neutral. He backed Candace directly. He said the official version of what happened on September 10th doesn't make sense to him. He made it clear he believes there could be more going on under the surface than what's been publicly explained. And that hit different, because when Joe Rogan speaks, millions actually listen. That's just facts. The second he entered this conversation, people who had been ignoring Candace suddenly had to pause and rethink everything. Rogan isn't known for jumping into situations like this randomly. He doesn't usually involve himself in active, sensitive cases tied to major public figures unless he feels strongly about it. So when he says something like this, people take it seriously and start asking questions fast. So what exactly is being said here, and why is it making people feel like this situation could be way deeper than they first thought? The official version of events has always had unanswered questions. From the very start, things didn't fully line up, and that's what keeps pulling people back into this story again and again. Let's break it down clearly, because a lot of people are only seeing bits and pieces instead of the full picture. It is publicly reported that Charlie Kirk died on September 10th at Utah Valley University. That part is widely acknowledged, but everything around that moment, how it happened, who was involved, and how the investigation unfolded has been the part people keep questioning. Right after the incident, things started moving in a way that caught attention fast. Local law enforcement initially responded, which is standard in situations like this. But then federal authorities became involved very quickly, and that shift raised eyebrows for some observers. Candace Owens was one of the first to publicly question that move. She pointed out that when federal agencies step in early, it can sometimes mean the case has broader implications, or simply that the situation requires additional resources and coordination.
Erika is in full control. I would hope she's in full control, but I don't know because I'm hearing some stories about donors that are pushing things. I'm hearing about the pressure that's even happening with planning this event. And nope, you're right. You got me. I was not invited to speak alongside President Trump and J.D. Vance on the stage with Tucker Carlson at a memorial event.
Still, that early involvement became a major talking point online. She also mentioned another detail that got people talking. According to her posts, there were reports of a military aircraft landing in Utah shortly before the incident. She shared this observation very quickly after the news broke. At the time, many people saw that as speculation, but as more discussion grew and questions continued circulating, some started revisiting that claim, wondering if it was just coincidence or something that stood out for a reason. Candace Owens also pointed out something that sounds simple at first, but when you really think about it, it raises serious questions. If the goal was to identify a suspect as quickly as possible, the most obvious step would usually be to release images, surveillance clips, and any relevant footage to the public right away. We've seen it before. The internet can analyze and spread information incredibly fast. But in this situation, that kind of wide, immediate release didn't happen. Instead, information appeared to come out slowly and in a more controlled way, which got people talking.
That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Candace Owens made her stance clear. She argued that if there had been a push for rapid public assistance, more visuals and details would have been shared early on. That perspective started gaining more attention once Joe Rogan openly said the timeline and official explanations didn't fully add up to him. Then another name started circulating more heavily, George Zen. This is where things get even more complicated. According to reports discussed online, George Zen is described as an older man who appeared at the scene and claimed he was the shooter, which reportedly caused confusion during a critical moment. At first glance, that might sound like the kind of chaotic behavior that can happen during high-stress situations. People panic, emotions spike, and unexpected actions happen in crowds all the time. But here's where people began looking closer. Discussions online have pointed to claims that George Zen has had prior interactions involving public disturbances and encounters with law enforcement. These mentions have been circulating in conversations, though details and context around them are still debated.
You find this rifle and then you say, oh, he assembled it and he reassembled it. Like, okay. If I wish I was a cop, I'd sit in a room like, this story is horseshit. Like, none of these things make any sense to me. It's all part of the plan. If you want people to lose all faith that anyone is going to solve anything, you add a bunch of, if you're going to kill a guy, you add a bunch of other wacky that doesn't make any sense and you spam it out there at the same time. You leave a gun that didn't do it out in the woods. You do a bunch of shit like that.
You have an old man put his out and yell, I did it, I did it.
Yeah, you get some kid who has a boyfriend who's a furry, and you talk to him on Discord. I think he's a furry.
Because of that, some people started questioning whether his presence was purely coincidental, or if there was more context behind it that hasn't been fully clarified yet. This is where things start to feel even more unusual. People online have been pointing out that this isn't just a random individual caught in a strange moment. They claim this is someone who has reportedly shown up in multiple tense, high-pressure situations before, which makes some observers question the odds of it happening again here. So when Joe Rogan raises the question, it hits hard. What are the chances that this exact person with that kind of reported background just happened to be there at that exact moment, and not only present, but involved in a way that allegedly created confusion during a critical response window? Some people see that as coincidence. Others aren't so sure, especially because of how impactful that moment could have been on the early stages of the situation.
Well, there was that one guy who was the decoy. All right, so you got this guy who's an older guy who starts yelling out. Didn't he take his pants down? He took his pants down. This guy was at 9/11. He was at the Boston bombings.
All the hits.
He called in a fake bomb at another place. And then he did this at this thing. Right after, so somehow or another, this guy has the state of mind that the moment someone gets shot, he yells out and says, I did it, I did it.
Then attention shifts to the reported suspect, Tyler Robinson. Rogan discussed the possibility that Robinson may not have acted alone, or that there could be more complexity behind the situation than what has been publicly explained. He suggested that it's worth asking whether everything happened exactly as it appears on the surface. That's a serious claim, and when someone with Rogan's reach says something like that out loud, it keeps the conversation alive and growing fast. But then the focus turns away from the incident itself and toward motive, because both Rogan and Candace Owens have repeatedly pointed to something else entirely, the financial side of things.
There's the other thing. They said that he took it apart and then put it back together again? Shut the fuck up. Do you know how much time it would take to do that if you were highly skilled?
To disassemble a gun.
To disassemble a rifle so that you can get it in a backpack. And by the way, not going to fit.
Not going to fit in a backpack.
And then somehow or another reconnects it once he gets off the roof? What? Like, you're telling me that this kid who's not military trained, this guy, first of all, how did he get to the roof? How come nobody was looking? How come nobody was like, there's a direct line of sight between where he's sitting and those roofs? You guys didn't check? You don't have a drone? Like, that's insane. So he's on the roof, he shoots, he jumps from the roof. He jumps down 14 feet, jumps off of the roof and lands, whether or not he's even the guy who shot him. Mm-hmm. Maybe he thought he was going to shoot him. Maybe he's a patsy.
According to widely discussed reports, about 8 days before his death, Charlie Kirk sent an internal memo within Turning Point USA. In that message, he reportedly called for a full internal audit. The goal was described as reviewing operations, cutting unnecessary spending, and taking a closer look at where funds were going. He wanted transparency. He wanted accountability. He wanted everything reviewed carefully. After his death, some former individuals connected to the organization reportedly spoke out in interviews and discussions, claiming there had been financial concerns behind the scenes. These claims remain unverified publicly, but they've added another layer to an already complicated situation, and people are paying close attention to where this leads next. Now, this is where things really start getting intense, because the conversation shifts straight into money, and not small amounts either. There have been claims circulating that the audit Charlie was planning could have uncovered over $40 million in funds that were not clearly accounted for. That's a huge number, and people online keep pointing out how serious that would be for any organization, especially one he helped build from the ground up. The discussion then turns to Tyler Bauer, who was leading Turning Point Action at the time. He has publicly stated that Charlie had personal conversations about future leadership ideas, including mentioning Erika. At the same time, people have also pointed out that Bauer received a presidential pardon not long after Charlie's death, which added even more attention to his name in these discussions. According to Candace Owens, there were also claims of inside sources connected to Turning Point USA who were sharing information with her. These claims have not been independently verified, but they've been a major part of the online conversation. The core point both Candace and Rogan keep repeating is simple: follow the money. Because when people start looking at the financial side, some begin to question whether the situation is as straightforward as it first appeared. Then there's another layer: pressure from major donors. Reports and screenshots shared online suggest Charlie was dealing with serious pushback behind the scenes. In one message, he reportedly said, "Just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year, because you won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Jewish donors play into all the stereotypes. I cannot and I will not be bullied like this, leaving me with no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause." That message, if accurate, shows the kind of pressure he may have been under from powerful financial backers. All of this adds more complexity to the situation, and it explains why so many people keep digging deeper into every piece of this story. In his final weeks, things reportedly got very tense behind the scenes. There were claims that Charlie was facing serious pressure from major donors, with threats of pulling funding unless he adjusted his views, changed direction, and distanced himself from certain people. That's not just simple disagreement, that's intense financial pressure, and from what's been shared, Charlie wasn't backing down easily. Some of the individuals connected to these claims have strongly denied them. That includes Bill Ackman, who was mentioned in discussions about a reported private meeting with Charlie at his estate in the Hamptons weeks before the incident. According to accounts shared publicly, people close to Charlie said he left that meeting feeling extremely unsettled. Those close to him allegedly described his reaction using strong language, saying he felt like he had been blackmailed. That claim has not been independently confirmed, but it became a major talking point once it started spreading. Candace Owens addressed this situation publicly and didn't hold back. She said Charlie had been in conflict with powerful financial figures connected to his work, and that the pressure on him had been building fast.
Then there arrived a moment when Charlie felt that the money was disappearing. He felt that, again, according to sources, that the company was burning through cash too quickly, and Charlie set about finding out why and how this was happening.
She made several strong statements online, including, "Over the last 2 weeks, the truth will be revealed, the messages will be leaked, and the movement he built will rise up." And then followed it up with, "More is going to come out, guys. The truth is inevitable. They're lying." She even added, "Sorry guys, you murdered my friend. You unlocked the Inigo Montoya in me. We're not stopping until we get to the bottom of this thing." Those are serious accusations, and they reflect how strongly she believes in her perspective. It's important to note these claims and statements are part of an ongoing public debate, and not all of them have been verified. Still, the language being used shows how intense this situation has become. And now, attention shifts again towards someone even closer to the center of it all, Charlie's wife, Erika, who is publicly seen as carrying on his legacy, but is now also being discussed more closely as questions continue to grow. Now this is where the story takes another turn and people start looking at details that didn't get much attention at first. There's a piece from Erika's past that has been circulating but hasn't really been deeply examined. In a 2020 interview, Erika mentioned that her family moved to Arizona because her mother had taken a role connected to Homeland Security and the Department of Defense. That's a notable detail, especially since those are major federal institutions. On its own, that connection doesn't prove anything, but when people place it next to everything else being discussed, it becomes one of those details that sparks more questions and curiosity. Then people started paying attention to what happened after Charlie's death, especially the timeline. Within less than 2 weeks, Erika stepped into the role of CEO of Turning Point USA. That transition happened quickly, and it caught a lot of attention online. There wasn't a long public process, no extended interim period, just a fast leadership shift during a time when the organization was reportedly grieving. Before that, she wasn't widely known as being deeply involved in the organization's daily operations, at least from a public-facing perspective. So the speed of that change stood out to many observers. Then there's the financial side again. Reports discussed online suggest Charlie's estate was valued at over $12 million. And at the same time, the organization began receiving significant new donations after his passing. With Erika now leading, she became central to those developments, which added another layer of attention.
Ask a question. This might be off topic. How did your mom choose Phoenix?
So she chose to move to Phoenix from Ohio because there was more of an opportunity for a female business owner out here, especially from the standpoint of she was getting involved with the government, so Homeland Security and Department of Defense. And so she had other business partners that were out here that were already in that industry, even one that was a mentor of hers. So it was really convenient to be able to come all together in one place to really have that.
People online started connecting the dots, questioning whether everything moved so quickly by coincidence or if some of those transitions had been anticipated earlier. And then came a moment that really got people talking. At Charlie's memorial, when a prominent political figure publicly offered condolences to Erika, the interaction was widely shared and analyzed. The embrace between them stood out to viewers, with many saying the moment felt unusual for the setting. Clips were replayed, slowed down, and discussed across social media. Some interpretations went beyond what can be confirmed, but the general reaction was clear. A lot of people felt something about that moment didn't quite sit right, and the conversation around it kept growing. Then came another moment that really pushed this conversation into overdrive, the Turning Point rally where Erika appeared alongside JD Vance. People immediately started talking about the way they interacted, the body language, the close proximity, the long eye contact. It all stood out to viewers watching closely. This wasn't something people just noticed casually either. Clips started spreading fast, and suddenly everyone had an opinion. Social media lit up with reactions. Some posts even went as far as making bold predictions, with lines like "Vance announces divorce, marries Charlie Kirk's widow by end of 2026, and speculation about Erika possibly stepping into an even bigger political spotlight in the future. Now, to be clear, none of that is confirmed, and it should be treated as speculation.
Could I ask Erika, please come out? Erika, please come out. Thank you.
But what made it stand out was how many people independently were pointing out the same things about that interaction. The optics caught attention, and they caught it fast. And here's where the conversation takes another serious turn. JD Vance and Donald Trump are both major figures in politics right now. At the same time, voices like Candace Owens have suggested that individuals in powerful positions could have deeper insight into what really happened. That remains an allegation, not a confirmed fact. But because of that, some people online started viewing Erika's public interactions differently. They began asking whether what they were seeing was simply emotional support during a difficult time, or if there was something more strategic behind it.
And I see no one will ever replace my husband. No. But I do see some similarities of my husband in JD and Vice President JD Vance. I do.
Then when you zoom out and look at everything being discussed, the federal involvement, the controlled release of information, the financial questions, the donor pressure, the timeline of events, it's clear why this story keeps pulling people back in. Because piece by piece, people feel like there are still a lot of unanswered questions, and they're watching closely to see what comes next. Every single one of those threads people have been talking about just keeps growing. More claims, more sources speaking out, more conversations happening behind the scenes. What started as something many dismissed is now being looked at very differently. Candace Owens was called everything at the start. People labeled her a conspiracy theorist, said she was reckless, said she was just stirring things up. But now, with Joe Rogan stepping in and publicly saying the official version doesn't fully make sense to him, the tone has clearly shifted. Rogan didn't come in lightly. He didn't hedge his words. He made it clear he believes there are still major unanswered questions, and that some aspects of the story deserve closer examination. That alone has pushed this conversation into a whole new space. And it's important to be clear, these are still discussions, claims, and allegations being debated publicly. Nothing has been fully confirmed in the way some people online are suggesting. But the fact that bigger voices are now asking questions means this story isn't fading anytime soon. Instead, it keeps evolving. People continue to look at the financial side, the timeline, the decisions made early in the investigation, and the public behavior of key figures. With each new detail being discussed, more attention gets pulled into the story, and more people start forming their own opinions. The case is not quietly closing. It's not being forgotten. If anything, it feels like more layers are being examined as time goes on. And at the center of it all is one big question that keeps coming up again and again. Who actually has the full picture, and when will it be made clear? Because if even part of what's being discussed ends up being backed by solid evidence, it could completely change how people understand everything surrounding this situation. If you've been following this closely, drop your thoughts below. What do you think is really going on here? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.